They weren't set up to deal with this scale of outbreak. They were used to dealing with people involving sort of pub brawls and fights, market day disturbances, that sort of thing. But to have, in some cases, dozens or even hundreds of people involved in organised activities like this was something that no one had really ever seen before.
So what typically would happen when a uniformed bobby would turn up at the scene of one of these mass scuttles?
The presence of police officers would sometimes inflame the situation. The police officers themselves would then become the target. Any rivalries would be forgotten, and both sides would concentrate on the police officer. If an officer had to make an arrest, you had to literally take the person with handcuffs through the street. There was no van to come and collect you. Although the cells might be designed for 2 people, they would be quite happy to put 12 or sometimes more people in each cell. They weren't averse to mass arrests. And the stations could accommodate them because the standards and the procedures followed were much more basic than they would be today.
So young toughs have made parts of Manchester and Salford no-go areas. How does the law react?
In some years, you would have had hundreds of scuttlers appearing in police courts precisely like this one. And at many points in the 1890s, there were more young people in strange ways held for scuttling than for any other kind of criminal offence. Many scuttlers were sentenced to penal servitude, which was a much tougher regime than an ordinary prison like Strangeways, and they could literally find themselves breaking rocks for 15 or 20 years.
Did the sentences act as a deterrent?
Many scuttlers served repeated stretches in Strangeways. Even some of those who'd served a long term of penal servitude returned to the gangs, got back involved in scuttling affrays as soon as they were released.
In fact, the scuttlers seem to have nothing but contempt for the courts.
Their conduct in the dock at the police court is most flippant and callous. On one side stood the witnesses, bearing marks of severe stab wounds, and in the dock the youths laughed and turned round to wink at friends in the gallery. Even down in the cells they whistled and sang and said, "Oh, it'll only be 12 months for me."
With the courts proving ineffective, members of the liberal elite started to ask whether there might not be an alternative, and the Lads Club movement was born.
Salford Lads' motto, to brighten young lives and make good citizens. So that's what the Lads Club movement did, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole idea of it was to actually get kids off the street, give them something positive to do in terms of education and employment, and actually even find them a job at Salford Lads Club.
And was it a solution?
Well, I think it's a fantastic solution. I mean, if we talk about the opening night here, there were nearly 700 boys wanted to come in, and they actually had to raise the kind of joining age from 12 to 13.
So it got lots of kids off the street?
It was immediate.
If you look at the way that sports developed within the clubs, very, very quickly, Salford Lads Club here in Odsal would be taking on the Adelphi at every kind of sport imaginable, where 10 years previously, Odsal was taking on the Adelphi at Scotland.
Fighting, so that sports rivalry replaced the fighting rivalry.
Exactly.
The lads' clubs were one of the reasons why the scourge of scuttling finally died out by the end of the 19th century. Since then, Manchester and Salford have experienced many forms of gang violence. But nothing has caused the law-abiding citizens of the two cities more relief than the demise of the scuttlers.
And you can see a rogues gallery of the scuttlers on our website, along with a sneak preview of a play about their story. Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget you can watch again via the BBC iPlayer. We'll be back next Wednesday at 7:30. See you then. Bye-bye. Next week on Inside Out, we're in deep water to investigate the danger of flooding.
It's at times like these, Mark, I wish I was 5'2" rather than 6 foot tall.